Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy's Social Work Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Toya Jones. Welcome back, y'all. It's so good to see you. Well, you see me, but it's good that you're back and you are hearing me and seeing me. Thank you for your support. Oh my goodness, we have so many Ask a Therapist questions. I will be answering 3 questions on this podcast today. So get ready for your Starbucks gift card, you 3. I will say who you are and I will contact you and let you know how to come and get, or it'll be sent to you, your Starbucks gift card. All right, y'all, if you have questions, ask a therapist, email me directly at toyaj@pitt.edu. That's the only way to get your questions to me now. That Qualtrics link is dead and gone. It's just easier and better. Email me directly so I know who you are and I can respond right back to you. All right, here we go. Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy. We are talking about therapy today. Therapy. You need to go to therapy. Wait, I need to go to therapy. Okay, have you ever had that conversation with yourself, or is someone saying that to you? Then it's time to go to therapy, y'all. So we're going to talk about that. I have notes so I don't forget anything. I got things that I collected throughout the years I'm going to throw at you. And my therapist friends, I want y'all to comment below. Give some of your tips. You know, we all been doing this for so long. We have the experience, we got the knowledge, and just one person kicking the knowledge. Listen, that ain't good enough. Let's get everybody in there. So all my therapist friends, comment below as I talk and as I give these tips. If you have some tips, share it. I love it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start off with talking about when you know you need to go to therapy, or when you know somebody next to you, you're like, hey, you need to go to therapy, okay? You know, there's something that you're just like, something's off, something's going on. So I kind of have this checklist that I got from Dr. John Grohol, and I added some of my own stuff. I like this checklist. So you need therapy when? Here we go. It causes significant distress in your life or their life, okay? Significant stress. And you're noticing that, you know what, I'm not the same person. I'm not who I usually am. I don't have that rhythm. You know, when you have that, like, okay, I'm beating to that rhythm, and you know that, wait, I'm losing my step. I'm just not myself, or you're just not yourself, okay? And nothing you are doing seems to help. Nothing you have done seems to help. It's like, well, I usually take a walk and I feel better. Or, I get around some friends and then I feel like myself again. Well, that stuff's not working. It's not working. So that means I need to go to therapy. You're overusing or you're abusing something or someone to alleviate the symptoms. I'm drinking too much. I'm smoking some stuff. I'm taking it out on my children. I'm taking it out on my significant other, on my partner. I'm taking it out on myself. I'm self-medicating, I'm self-abusing, okay? Time to go to therapy. You have the inability to carry out everyday activities. So you can't do what you usually do. You usually get up, I work out, I have some breakfast, and then I drive to work. You can't do it, just like an interruption. You don't feel your pattern, okay? So you can't carry out the everyday activity. You're noticing, I'm not really showering. Or, wait, did I wash up? Did I eat? I'm calling off. I'm skipping class. I'm not showing up, telling friends, yeah, I'm going to be there, and then I don't show up. So I'm not doing my usual activity. I have aches and pains in my body. My digestive system is whacked. It's all out of whack, okay? So a lot of times stress, anxiety, depression, it impacts your physical body. And so stomach aches, indigestion, dizziness, heart racing, sweating, sleeplessness, sleeping too much, overeating, undereating, all of these things, okay? So basically, I have pain in my stomach or pain in my back or pain all in my joints and in my muscles. I'm not talking about the over 40 kind of pain. I'm talking about Aches and pains. I'm lethargic. I'm moving slow. Can't go to the bathroom where I'm just running. You know what I'm saying? Okay. There's something that ain't right. My digestive system isn't going right, okay? Thoughts of harming yourself or somebody else. That deep, dark hole, you feel like you are literally in a hole and someone is trying to pull you and trying to connect to you and you can't touch their hand. That's that deep depression hole. And you're thinking about harming yourself. You would like to escape the pain that you're feeling and you're thinking something on the other side got to be better than what I'm experiencing right now. Yeah, you deserve to go to someone and talk to someone that could help you. You need their hand to connect with yours, okay? That is a really difficult, horrible space to be in, and you deserve to get out of that space. There are other alternatives. There are other alternatives to take in your life. It just feels like there's no other way out. That's when you know that depression is deep. But that's a lie, because there are ways out and you can get out of that and you can feel better, okay? So going to therapy, that's a sign. And actually harming yourself, cutting, harming other people, getting into fights, physical fights, harming people, harming animals, things like that. But harming yourself can mean overindulging in substance, alcohol, drugs. But harming yourself can mean physical harm, cutting yourself with a razor, eraser, burning yourself, sticking yourself, with needles, things like that, okay? That is your body saying, I need help, please get me some help. And so that's when it's time to go to therapy. Now, I had a question that I thought was a dynamic question, and they didn't leave their name, but I won't say anything because it was anonymous. So they didn't leave their name, but I have your email address so I know who you are. And your question is, can I really get accurate treatment for my mental illness? I'm afraid my privacy will be exposed. This was an excellent question. Thank you for asking that in the Ask a Therapist way. You emailed me. Okay, let's get into this. Can you really get accurate treatment? Absolutely, you can get accurate treatment. There are several questions you have to ask yourself before you go to therapy. Okay? I look at therapy differently, not as treatment, because treatment means something's wrong with you and you need to be fixed. So you have to treat the problem. So yes, you are treating the problem when you're in therapy, but it's not just the therapist that is treating the problem. You are doing some self-treatment too. So just like we can self-injure, we can self-heal. And so healing comes from all kind of different angles, okay? Some believe healing comes from God or higher power or from the earth or from energy. Others believe healing comes from other people. Others believe healing comes from within. I believe it comes from all the above. And so we have to do work. So when you're in therapy, you do work too. You don't sit back on the couch like, okay, fix me, doctor. Don't we wish? But that's how it happens when we go to a physician. We're usually like, I have this thing wrong, please treat this illness. Well, that's because it is. It's a sickness, it's an illness. When you have mental illness, it's more of a mental diagnosis so that we can know what is going on. It's your mental health. And so this is what it fits into. You have these symptoms and then it becomes a diagnosis. But it is a joint effort between you and your therapist, your family, your friends, your support network, your spirituality, all of these things, physiological impact, and using your body to heal. It all is a full circle. So can you get accurate treatment? Absolutely. You participate in the treatment. But before you go to therapy, before you go to this relationship that's going to help heal, you ask yourself some questions, okay? And so you're asking yourself these things, all right? Get your pen and paper out. It's going to be some good stuff, y'all. So you're asking yourself, what do I need therapy for? Why am I going to therapy? Knowing why you're going to therapy, like this is what is wrong and this is what I'm struggling with and this is what I need help with, helps you to articulate that to the therapist. Instead of going in talking about fix me, you don't see all these broken parts, put me back together. That's not quite what it is. I'm going to therapy because I don't feel like myself. Okay, well, how so? I feel down. I feel like I have no energy. I'm sad. I don't like doing the things that I usually like to do. I'm rejecting my friends. I don't feel like getting out the bed. I have no motivation to do anything. I don't work out, don't do anything. I just want to sit there. I wish I could sleep 24 hours a day. Okay, that is some signs. So good. You're in therapy. That's where you need to be. You need some help with that. That's okay. That's okay to need help. Listen, if you go to a grocery store and you get, $400 worth of groceries, well, right now that's only like 2 things half the time. But imagine you have all these bags and you're carrying them up. You have 3 flights of steps and you're carrying them up the steps because there's no elevator. And many people keep coming by saying, hey, you need some help? Hey, would you like help with those bags? You keep saying, no, I'm okay. And you keep stumbling back down the steps because you have cans and bottles of orange juice and milk. It's heavy. Allow somebody to help you carry that load. That's wisdom, okay? Allow them to take a couple bags up those steps. Make a couple trips, right? All right. So, So now you're asking yourself, what am I coming to therapy for? Why now? Why now helps you to answer, am I ready? Do you ever really get ready? No. But I'm ready to do the work. I'm ready to stop feeling like this. That's the ready I'm asking you to ask yourself. Are you ready to feel better? Are you ready to find alternate ways or to help you heal and to help you through the situation? Yes needs to be the answer. Okay. And then what do I need in a therapist? So what are some non-negotiables? I need a therapist to be this and this. I need them to be young. I need them to be old. I need therapists to be older. It makes me feel like they're like Yoda and they're all wise and all knowing or something. I'm like, yes, come on, get that wisdom to me. I need them to be older. I remember I had a client that was older. She was in her 60s and she went to a therapist that was very young and she was like, I can't have this little young therapist coming here popping gum and stuff. That's what she said. It was so funny. But I learned so much through her because she basically said, this is what I need, this is what I don't need. I can't, this person can't help me just because of the way I perceive them. And so she needed someone older. But I remember, being fired for, I say fire because, a client would say, oh, you're too young. I need somebody older. Or you're too old. I need somebody younger. I remember that happening all in the same week, y'all. It was funny. I said, okay, I'm old and young this week. So that person knew what they needed and it was okay. Do you need a person of color? If you're a person of color, you need a person of color. That's okay. I'm black, I need a black therapist. Or I'm white, I need a white therapist. There's nothing wrong with, pairing up culture. Sometimes with black folk, we're like, I can't explain the struggle to you. I need you to already know what it is. I need you to know what oppression is. I don't need to, okay, well, this happened. Well, it wasn't all in my mind. That was actually some racist stuff, and I don't really want to go into it, or I don't want to try to talk a certain way so that you can understand. Now, shout out to my white therapists that get it, because there's a lot of y'all. They're all my friends, but there's a lot of y'all that get it, and you're like, you don't have to go through all that. I know. I work with the community. I work with people of color. I work with black folk. I know, to a certain extent. Like you're not a person of color, but you got it. You get it, and you can help people of color heal. And so, y'all are out there, and I know it. Okay? All right. Then ask yourself, what kind of therapist do I want? Because there are many types of therapists. There are psychologists. Those are licensed therapists with a doctorate in psychology. There are psychiatrists. Those are doctors, okay? They're physicians who concentrate in psychiatric medication. And so their degree is in psychiatry, which means they prescribe medicine, psychotropic medication to be specific, and they treat the mind in that way. And then there's social workers. That's me. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, which means I have a license and training to be a therapist. And I'm trained in social work. Social work is very broad. And so I concentrated in direct practice, which means I'm dealing with people individually, families, communities, groups. Okay. And so I'm trained to look at mental health and diagnosis in as an ecosystem and in a broader holistic way. So I look at healing a person through the family, healing a person through the community, healing the community through the people, instead of there is a diagnosis or a mental disorder that we must treat and fix. So that's the way social workers think. And then counselors. And so we have LPCs out there, and you are trained in counseling, and there are different tracks, but we're all therapists. And so we have art therapists that are trained specifically in art therapy, but then they're licensed. They have LPCs and they're licensed clinicians, and so they could do therapy. So there's all kind of different approaches. You have to think about what type of therapist do I want, and what type of model. There's so many treatment models. I love social work because we learn about probably 20 different treatment modalities, and I'm very eclectic therapist. I use a little Gestalt, I use a little CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, a little trauma focused CBT, and just swirl it around with a little, Virginia Satir, and I love learning about theory. I love history of psych and therapy and models. I think it's awesome. I got a little Freudian beliefs and things like that too, because I have a degree in psychology. So I'm very eclectic. I like an eclectic therapist, like use what I need. You don't know until you get here, and it's like, oh, you know what? We're going to use this treatment model. This works best. Or I'm going to mix a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And shout out again to my art therapist. I use art. I use music. All of those things, and so do a lot of my therapist friends out there. So we're trained in a lot of different things, and so you can ask that. What are you trained in? What is your jam? What's your forte? And mine is trauma. I help folks that have been through trauma, whether they're inmates, they're ex-offenders, victims, survivors, all of it, all the trauma. And so that happens to be, my forte. That's my cup. And I've done a lot of research and study and a lot of working with those that have survived trauma. So that's what I do. I'm a trauma expert, a trauma therapist. So you would come see someone like me for therapy for trauma. Not me, because I don't practice like that anymore, but I am now a professor here at Pitt. But you're going to, go to folks and go to trainings. I still do lots of trainings and speak to people about trauma. So that's who you want. If you have been traumatized, you've been a victim of crime or trauma, you want to go to a trauma specialist. Okay? There are several ways to find a therapist, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want you to also ask, what kind of insurance do I have? Then you ask the provider. So when you call, I'm going to talk about just some things you ask a therapist once you get past that very brave point of saying, I'm going to make the call, I'm going to make an appointment. What kind of insurance do you have? And so call, this is the best way, y'all. Find a therapist is to call the back of the insurance card. People don't sleep that. That is really, because then they're in your provider network, and the people like UPMC or Aetna, they have people that you can call and say, I need a therapist in this surrounding area, and I need them to specialize in this. They'll find a list of therapists, and they'll give you phone numbers, and you call them. Okay? And so that's the back of the card. Now, if you don't have insurance, you want to know that about that specific therapist too. Do you take folks that don't have insurance? Do you have a sliding scale? Can I make payments? things like that. Is there a copay if I do have insurance? How much is it? Because sometimes the copay is like $25 and you're like, I don't have $25 once a week. That's a lot of money. That's $100. Okay. And do they have plans? You know, what is their procedure if you don't pay? Can they cut you? Or, you know, is there something you can work out? And so you need to know all of that before you start therapy. How do you find a therapist? Okay, there are certain networks like psychology.com. They have therapists there. The National Registry, the American Psychological Association. You can find therapists there. Like I said, the back of the insurance card is the best way to me if you have insurance. But asking a friend or asking a therapist that you know, put it in on social media. It's no shame to need therapy or to want therapy. So asking people like, do you know a therapist? Do you know anybody? I get that question all the time. So I have my own like fake directory in my phone full of like therapist friends and making connections and things like that. So it's my public service, y'all. So that, to me, are the best ways. Asking your doctor. Sometimes your physician knows of a therapist or they'll have a directory of therapists, okay? So your other part of your question, you said, I'm going to go back up to it in my notes. I want to read it right. I'm afraid my privacy will be exposed. Your privacy should not be exposed. We are bound by confidentiality as therapists, and you sign a confidentiality form. You should have that in the beginning. Don't tell your therapist a single word until you sign that confidentiality form and until they explain confidentiality and the exceptions to the confidentiality. We have exceptions that we need to break confidentiality. Here they go. We only need to break confidentiality if you are talking about killing yourself. If you're talking about killing someone else, okay, we have a duty to warn. Tear-us-off. We have to warn someone if you're talking about, I'm going to kill my baby daddy, the guns in the bushes, it's going down at midnight. Okay, hold on now. You had a whole plan. Now, I don't mean just expressing your frustration. I'm so tired, of my girlfriend. I'm going to kill her. Okay, let's talk that through. Let's make sure that's not what your plan is, or if that's just your anger talking. That's different. But you have a plan and you're about to do it, okay? That actually happened to me. I had a teenage boy talking about he was so angry he was going to kill this boy, and he was going to go to his friend's house and get the gun, and he was going to go to the school the next day, not go into school, but go to the school the next day and shoot him. Well, that was a whole plan, and that's something I needed to report, so I had to report that, okay? If you have plans to kill yourself, not feelings or suicidal ideations, but actually you are lethal, you are not safe, and you're probably going to go home and kill yourself, that's something we have to report. We got to keep you safe, okay? Also, if there is elder abuse, we have to protect our citizens, our older citizens, and if someone is abusing them, neglecting them, we have to report that. Okay, that's it. That's it. If a child, that's the other one. If a child is talking about someone that sexually abused them or is assaulting them physically or sexually, we have to report that. We have to keep children safe, point blank, period. So that's it. Those are the exceptions. Other than that, a therapist should not be spreading your business. There should be no gossip. Confidentiality is a serious thing. It's ethics, okay? And it's unethical to break confidentiality. So if I see an old client, they walk up to me, which I see all the time, everywhere. I'm talking about the dollar store, Shop and Save, the restaurant, out of town. I see y'all everywhere. I love it. You can come up to us as therapists and say hello, give us hugs, shout us out, high five, anything you want to do. But we are not going to come up to you and we're not going to say, hey, you my client. We're not allowed to do that. That's confidentiality. We're not allowed to go home and talk to our partners. We can't talk to our friends about you. We can describe a situation, like you've been hearing me talk about things, but I'm not giving any identifiable attributes so you can figure out who it is. And the reason I'm giving it to you is to train and teach. not just gossiping. There should be no in-office gossip. Your therapist shouldn't be talking to the receptionist about you. This is confidentiality, and you sign it. That person can have a complaint filed against them, especially if they have a license. Their license, they can go through all kind of problems through the licensing board if they break confidentiality and they're spreading your business through the community or something like that. They don't need to be practicing if they're doing that, okay? So nobody should be knowing your business, all right? All right, get ready to receive your Starbucks gift card. Thank you for your question. Okay, what to ask once you call? Are you licensed? Okay, so only those with a proper training receive a license. Now, you have therapists without license, and they can be very skilled, but understand when you have a license, you have training, a test, a state board test exam. I had to take 2, one for the LSW, one for the LCSW. It's very hard, and it's a lot of studying and a lot of training, 3,000 hours of training to be exact, from a LCSW, and a psychologist is where I got my training and background. And so are you licensed? Now, it's okay if you go to someone that's not licensed. That's up to you. But ask them, are they licensed? Because they're going to have a certain amount of training, and we have to have ongoing training to continue to keep our license. Do you have health insurance? What kind of health insurance? Do you take mine? What are the limits? Do I have a number of sessions I can attend? You need to know that. If I can only attend 6, I'm going to cram all this information in these first 3 and go ahead and wean myself off for the other 3. Okay, something like that. What's the copay? What are your expertise? Do they specialize in this and that? So if you have a broken foot, y'all, and it can't heal right, you're not going to go to a cardiologist. Where you need to go? That's right, to a podiatrist. So go to someone that specializes in what you're going through. And there are therapists that specialize in several things. Like I specialize in anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, autism. So I have a lot of different things, trauma. Now, eating disorders, I probably will refer you to my friend, because I know a lot about eating disorders, and a lot of eating disorders come from trauma, but that's not really my specialty. And I really am fascinated by eating disorders, and I probably could get you to a certain point, but this person over here is going to be better at it. Yeah, and I love phobias too. I can help with phobias. It's very gratifying. All right, so those are just my, my specialties off cuff. Trichotillomania, stuff like that. Anyway, where are your location? What are your hours? Let me tell you something. You are not going to be consistent in therapy if it's all the way, you live in Penn Hills and you got to go to Punxsutawney. Ain't nobody doing that. That's for my Pittsburgh folk. Y'all know where I'm talking about. You going to Zelienople and you live all the way in Murraysville. That's just too far. You need to find somebody in Murraysville if you live in Murraysville. You need to find somebody on the north side if you live, in the north side. So it's convenient, or closer to your job, Find someone in Oakland if you live in Oakland. If you work in Oakland or you go to school in Oakland, but then you live over here in South Hills, that's fine. Just make it convenient so that you're not skipping out. Think about it like the gym. You're not going to have a gym membership all the way across town. You need something convenient that when you're riding home, you're like, I might as well just get off the bus and go, Okay, so make it convenient. And the hours have to be convenient. Do you need weekend? Do you need evening? Do you need early morning? Some therapists will see you at 7 a.m. Not me, but somebody will see you. How many sessions can you miss? What are the policies when you come late? Can you leave early? What about missed sessions? How many can you miss before they let you go? And make sure you're abiding by that. Because if you're late or if you're missing, that means that you're having a struggle with therapy. Let me tell y'all something about therapy. Therapy does not make you feel better just like that. Sometimes therapy makes you feel worse. You're like, I don't want to go, or I'm going to come late. This is making me feel horrible, before it makes you feel better. At the end, it will make you feel better. Think about it like this. Have you ever owned a fish and you had a fish bowl or an aquarium, or your kid ever owned a fish? So I owned a fish. His name was Charlie, and I had Lucky too. Okay. And I had a fish bowl. And every time I had to clean the fish bowl, my parents would say, it's time to clean the fish bowl. I say, it still looks a little clean, but I could tell it's a little dirty. Let me go ahead and get Charlie out of there and clean the fish bowl. When I start moving those rocks around, all the poo-poo start coming up and swirling around. Then I noticed it was really, really dirty. And I had my fish over here while I cleaned it out and wiped it down and poured fresh water in it and got him used to the temperature again. Okay, then it was crystal clear. That's therapy. You could tell it's dirty and you're like, oh, it needs clean, but you didn't know it needed that much clean. And when you start moving on rocks around, you start talking about stuff you never talked about. All that poo-poo comes to the surface. But guess what? It's going to be crystal clear if you can work through it. Okay? Okay. When you call the therapist, ask them, or when you're in therapy, once you get in there and get your appointment, before you get in there, ask them if they have a waiting list. Because I'm going to tell you something, pandemic did a number on us. We went through a lot, y'all. Pandemic residue is still slamming us 4 years later. We're still kind of, COVID's still here. So ask them if they have a waiting list and how long. And shop around. Call different places. Like, well, okay, how long's your waiting list? Or do you have a group that I can go in before I can see an individual therapist? And maybe that's the rule. Maybe you have to go into a group before you see an individual therapist. Don't shun groups. Groups sometimes can get to things that individual therapists can't get to because there's other people in the group that have gone through certain things that you're going through. And you're like, oh, me too. Well, how'd you get through that? Okay, I can get through it too. And it's a family. You're building a network of support. Okay? So, do you have a waiting list? What about groups? Is groups right for me? Is this therapist right for me? You're matching them with you. It's a relationship. They might not be the type of person that you're like, oh, I don't think we can get through this. But before you quit therapy, go a few times and then say, hey, therapist, this is the problem that I'm having. I feel like we're just not connecting. Because that therapist could think that y'all are connecting, everything's great, and they can change up some things. I had a client say, I was so tired of my therapist. They kept saying, how's that make you feel? How's that make you feel? How does that make you feel? Stop. They couldn't stand it. I said, okay. So sometimes we can get in like a repetitive mode and we're saying the same type of phrasing. We can change that. So talk to the therapist and say, I'm having this issue, thinking about switching therapist. Is there something that, we can correct? If they can't correct it, it's just the personality clashing with your personality. It's okay. Find another one. We are people. Find another person to match. You're not friends with everybody on purpose because it has to be a connection. Same with the therapist, okay? You have to build trust with your therapist. It has to be a trusting relationship. And so that match has to happen. If I can't trust my therapist, I'm not going to tell them everything. I need a clever therapist because, I'm pretty clever. I'll wiggle on out of that one. I need somebody to call me out on my stuff. Excuse me, Toya. Nope. You said this and you did that. I'll be like, oh, you got me. Okay. Need somebody clever. Okay. And do they have a psychiatrist on deck? You might need some psych meds. Let me talk about meds for a minute. I have people totally rejecting medication. Medication is not bad and evil, okay? If you have a headache, you take medicine to alleviate your headache. And some of us, I don't like a lot of medication in my body, so I'm not a pill pusher. I take supplements for a lot of my ailments, and I am a believer in supplements. But you're taking something, okay? And sometimes you have a mental health diagnosis that you need medication to help level you out for therapy to even work. And it's okay to take medicine to do that. All right? If you have a heart condition and you have to take medication, you're not going to refuse that, or you're going to have a heart attack and you're going to die. That makes no sense. We have to treat our mental health like we treat our body. Well, maybe we got to even do better with our body. If you need medicine, it's okay to take it. And sometimes it's just for a short period of time to get yourself stabilized. Other times, you have to take it long term. But guess what? That's okay if it's going to help you feel better. Read the side effects of different medication. Talk to people. Talk to different doctors. Get more than one opinion. Take the medication and see how it works with your body. Because that medication works differently with somebody else's body. Zoloft might work real great here, but Zoloft is terrible over here. So they need Lexapro. And that's just different, and that's how they are. Okay, so we're not rejecting medication all the time, but you're gonna have I am a believer of seeking a psychiatrist when I need medication. Okay, for psych. So if you need medication for your client, if you're a therapist, if you are the client and you need medication, psychiatrist to me is best. Now PCP can give you medicine until you get to a psychiatrist. But remember, psychiatrists study this. They have a doctorate in this. And that's what they do. And so talking to them and saying that that's not working well with my system, and they can change the dosage and things like that. All right. I believe in meds plus therapy plus a holistic approach. And so medication can help you get up and get out of the door. Now you got to get out the door and start walking and eating better, getting the fresh air and things like that. Some of us can go without medication and help and heal and get to a place. Some of us can't, and you need it. Ain't no shame. You take it. Okay. Don't stop taking the medication when you feel better. Give me your hand. Don't stop taking the medication when you feel better. You're supposed to be feeling better when you're taking the medication. That's what it's for. Don't stop therapy when you feel better. It's the therapy that's helping you to feel better. Don't stop it until you and your therapist agree that you have graduated and you turn the tassel to the side and you throw your hat up in the air and it's time to go. Don't just stop, okay? Because then you could regress. Okay. So let's see. Oh, I wanted to also give shout out to the article, How Do I Find a Good Therapist? The American Psychological Association. I got some of those tips from there, threw in some of my tips, so check it out. All right. Another question I receive, how do you get someone, a child or an adult, who really needs therapy due to traumas to buy in once there? So you got them. Thank you, Tay. I see that you left your name. Thank you very much. You get your Starbucks gift card. You already have some success getting them there. Getting a teenager to therapy, clap, clap, clap. Good job. Okay? How do you get them to stay there? How do you get them to not sign themselves out, especially if they're over 14? How do you get them to buy in? It's the relationship. They have to form a relationship. They don't click with the person, guess what? They ain't going to stay. Let me tell you a story I had. So I had a teenager come in. She was sassy and frashy. I know I made the frashy word up. And she came in and she's like, listen, I done been to about 6 therapists. I'm not going to keep coming back to you either. I'm going to come in here, tell you what you want to hear and walk out. You know what I said to her? Okay, you don't have to come to therapy. You can come anytime or not come anytime. I can't make you talk, nor would I want to make you talk. You're in control. You talk when you want to talk. You don't trust me and you shouldn't. You don't know me. But when you get to know me, you'll trust me and that'll be okay. Man, I had her for 2 years straight. Because it was like, I'm going to make you do nothing. You could talk, don't talk, do you? Ended up loving her. She ended up loving me. It was the best relationship ever. So we built a trust, okay? They have to be ready. They have to be ready, Tay. You have to think, and this is for everyone else too, do I think they need therapy? Do I want them to have therapy, or do they really need therapy? There's a difference. They might be actually coping and not need therapy, or they might be avoiding and really need therapy. So are they ready? Do they really need it, or do you really want them to have it? And ready means the person has to be able to see these symptoms are overtaking them. And it's at a point where they need someone to say, I see you struggling with this. You're not sleeping. I'm concerned about you because I love you and I see that you're very angry and you're snapping out. So you're showing them that you see these things and it's not like who they usually are. You can get some relief for that, such and such. You can go to therapy. And if you don't gel right with them, we can find somebody else. But let's not stop going until you get some relief. You deserve relief. You don't have to struggle and suffer. There is another way. Okay? So you point those things out that you observe. Let's see. And matching them with someone, that's most important. Being a role model for them too. If you're the parent or guardian, are you going to therapy if you need it? And they could see that happening. Or maybe we need family therapy in order for them to get up the courage to go. Sometimes you can heal that person through the family, and the whole family goes to therapy. I love doing family therapy. Love it. Even when the little ones come. Yes, you're part of family too. What you got to say? All right. And so the treatment model, what treatment model is best for them? Are groups better for them? Maybe individual therapist makes them feel intimidated. Get them in a group full of teenagers. Okay. That might be better. All right. So those points I think are most important. I want to address this last question. What kind of services do you usually provide for patients in consultation when you are looking for information? Thank you. You will get a Starbucks gift card as well. I went over a lot of those things. The kind of services, is it family therapy? Is it individual therapy? Is it group therapy? The caring place for those of you that lost a loved one suddenly. That's a better environment sometimes for people to be around in groups and create art and create, things that you can remember your loved one with. So that's what they provide. Each person and each therapist provides something different. And so when you're going through your consultation, you're looking for information. You already have the answers to what do you need in a therapist and in a facility and in someone, or in a group. What do I need? But then does that person provide it? And so you're looking for that, as well as the therapist is asking you questions about you. You can ask questions about them too. Some people need to get downright personal with their therapist. Like, hey, if you're getting personal with me, I need to get personal with you. I had a client asked me, okay, now that you asked me all those questions, I need to ask you some questions about you. And I said, okay, and if I feel comfortable, I'll answer them. We were just very candid. And she said, are you married? Do you have children? I said, I can answer those questions. Why not? Why can't I? So sometimes therapists, we got to close the textbook and say, I can't answer those questions. I can be a little bit open if that helps this person to be open with me. I had someone ask me about my religion. Well, I don't really want to get into that. I don't want to talk about my religion because I knew it would be a barrier with us. So then I said, I am very spiritual. And that was good enough for them. Some other people will be like, well, that's not good enough. That's not something I'm comfortable talking about because it's really personal and I don't want it to be a barrier with us. Because they had a different religion, and I knew they were looking for me to have the same religion. Okay, well, that wasn't going to work. I'm spiritual. Okay, so key points. I hope you wrote them down. I hope you took them in. Now, I hope you go to therapy. Call. Pick up the phone. Get on the waiting list. Call some more places. Get in a group. Get with somebody, make the connection, but most of all, start feeling better. You deserve that. You've been in captivity too long. You've been struggling too long. You've been feeling helpless and desperate too long. You have not been feeling like yourself far too long. The time is now. Okay? Get your relief. Get your healing. Let the sun shine on you. I'm a Prince fan. Let the purple rain on you. Okay? And keep healing so that your healing overflows onto everybody else. All right, y'all. It's our time. Thank you so much for joining me. Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy. Remember, new podcast every first and third Thursday during the season. I'll put out repeats for y'all to enjoy too. The most watched ones, I'll throw them back in rotation. But you can listen and watch on every major network. My Linktree link is below, and you can listen and keep on watching and share. Y'all been sharing the podcast, and it's really been helping other people. People have been coming up to me in the elevator, in the street. It really means so much to me, y'all. Keep listening, keep watching, but most importantly, keep healing. So your healing overflows. You got it. On to everyone else. See y'all next time. Bye.